Thanks very much, Gunther. Now, Eskom wants the government to make a decision on who is going to be allocated the nuclear power project. Speaking at the opening of the Africa Utility Conference in Johannesburg today, Chief Executive Brian Dames said a decision is needed soon.
South Africa has to add about 9,600 megawatts of nuclear energy into the electricity grid. It is estimated that this will cost about 700 billion rands. Eskom has not yet secured the funding for this. It says it is unable to plan for this until a decision is made on who is going to be responsible for this project.
From our perspective, we have seen the implementation around the renewables. I mean, that has come through and we've seen the announcements. It is the big decisions, the baseload decisions that needs to be made early. We'll be finishing Kusile in about 2019, around there. So if the next power station needs to be operational by 2020, it takes 10 years and we're already 8 years out. So what we would like to see is a decision making around the allocation of who should do this and which projects we should work on, that should start, and because that's very important from a planning perspective.
Dames says it's also time for other energy options such as gas to be explored.
I have reflected on the fact that the country needs to seriously consider what I call game changers. Energy efficiency is one. It is a certainty we should do that, we should invest in it, and we believe gas is another one. Whether it's natural gas within the region, which power can be built very quickly, or for that matter, unconventional gas, where we see, particularly in the US, we had a significant change in the energy landscape there.
The Africa Utility Week brings together utility professionals from more than 60 countries. It will continue until the end of the week. Diabo Seto, Business News, Johannesburg.
At the same time, Eskom's assured Parliament that it will try to avoid blackouts at all costs. But it's again appealed to consumers to save as much electricity as possible. The power utility said in a briefing to Parliament that it was operating at a tight but reasonable capacity.
MPs are concerned about the recurrence of nationwide blackouts that can bring the country's businesses to a standstill. But Eskom gave them an assurance, and the government has also came on board to prevent that reality.
The government gave us 350 billion of guarantees. There's no other company in the economy that has that sort of support. They also, prior to the dividend that they sacrificed for the current year, have also given us a subordinated loan of 60 billion rand.
They informed lawmakers that Medupi and Kusile power stations are also near completion. Medupi's first unit will be up and running by August next year, while Kusile will follow soon. They come at a whopping price of 221 billion rands respectively.
We had secured 75%, and remember our funding plan that we put in place in 2010, we were short by 300 billion. It was a gap, we called it then. It's actually a plan, and as we sit today, we're over 77% secured.
Eskom says it is now sitting with 160 billion rands foreign debt. And the power utility also warned MPs that it will still seek an increase from NERSA. Manilisi Tubase for SABC Business News, Parliament.
The battle lines have been drawn in the fight for control of COSATU's biggest affiliated union, the National Union of Mine Workers. The NUM begins its much-anticipated National Elective Conference, or rather Congress, at Empress Palace in Johannesburg tomorrow. Now, it comes amid accusations of dirty campaigning levelled by the current leaders against those vying to oust them.
The National Union of Mine Workers is COSATU's biggest affiliate with 320,000 members. Over the years, the 30-year-old union has produced prominent leaders such as Cyril Ramaphosa, Deputy President Kgalema Motlanthe, ANC General Secretary Gwede Mantashe, and COSATU's Zwelinzima Vavi. It goes into its elective congress tomorrow, divided right down the middle, with 4 of its 5 top leadership positions being fiercely contested. The key battle to watch, however, is the one between the incumbent General Secretary Frans Baleni and his deputy Oupa Komane, who is leading a strong campaign to oust Baleni. Now, on the eve of the National Congress, the incumbents have accused the Komane faction of waging a dirty campaign following a newspaper article 3 days ago, which alleged that Baleni recently had his salary hiked by a whopping 40,000 rand to 77,000 rand a month, making him the highest paid unionist in the country.
I wouldn't mind if they were hanging dirty linens for the public to see. But to manufacture lies as if they are the truth is what bothers me, because it means that, one, they don't care about this organization, although they care about its history and its future. But I believe that all those things will form part of the debate in Congress. That we cannot allow a situation where people say whatever they like in the name of campaigning.
Balani himself has also come out guns blazing, accusing those who are vying to oust the current leadership of having been bought by mining companies.
We have information that a number of companies are actually providing resources. For example, one company has confessed to us that they were supporting a particular candidate because this candidate said, if I'm elected, your mine will be protected, there will be no strike, and so on. So clearly, you can't sell the soul of the organization.
So the stage is set for what is likely to be the mother of all battles for the control of COSATU's biggest affiliate. The Congress will be closely watched locally and abroad, as it is likely to set the tone for elective congresses of many other COSATU unions, which are set to take place over the next few months, leading up to COSATU's own elective congress in September and culminating in the ANC's elective congress in Mangaung in December. Mbongini Mutua, Business News, Johannesburg.
The fight against cable theft has been given a boost. Yesterday, Police Minister Nathi Mthethwa announced the enactment of the Second-Hand Goods Act. The legislation is meant to strengthen the hand of law enforcement agencies in dealing with cable theft. The Act criminalises the possession of non-ferrous cable with a burnt cover, allowing for imprisonment of up to 10 years. Cable theft has disrupted essential services provided by Eskom and Telkom, and the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry says losses run into hundreds of millions of rands. Telkom alone lost 180 million rand to cable theft since April last year. The Act provides the police with a regulatory framework through which second-hand goods dealers and pawn shops owners can be put out of business if found to be selling stolen goods. So, still to come, from like to dislike, investors' attitudes change towards Facebook.
I don't like cricket. Million-selling legends 10cc and Moody Blues present collections of their greatest hits. Get these two special albums at all great music stores now.
Coming up on the Bar 1 Manhunt.
We're going to run, and then from here, it's us two landing, and the bomb goes off behind.
People are running around, they're trying to do 1,000 half jobs instead of to complete each task, which is actually really getting on my nerves.
Christo has been taken to hospital, where he is being looked into, and we will update you on his progress.
A specific list is a happy list.
Would you, do it if it was on that list?
Of course I would.
Give me your pen.
You're having a baby!
Hello?
Mrs. Allen, your baby needs you.
What baby?
The baby in the hospital!
Oh, that baby.
Would you like to try something a little bit different?
Say yes to chance! Say yes to chaos!
Chaos Theory, Saturday at 7:30 on 3.
The International Monetary Fund has warned that Britain's government and the Bank of England must take action to avoid lasting damage to the country's economy. The IMF says in a review statement of the British economy that the economic recovery should gain pace later this year, but it's warned that the much productive capacity will remain unused for a longer period. Britain has not fully recovered from the steep slump caused by the 2007-2009 financial crisis, and the economy fell back into recession at the end of last year. The IMF's Christine Lagarde.
Unfortunately, the economic recovery in the UK has not yet taken hold, and uncertainties abound. The stresses in the euro area affect the UK through many channels. Growth is too slow and unemployment, including youth unemployment, too high. Policies to bolster demand before low growth becomes entrenched are needed. I'm encouraged that Prime Minister Cameron recently emphasised the need to use the hard-won credibility of the government's balance sheet to help the economy grow. I'm also encouraged by the outcome of the G8 Leaders Summit last week and the leaders' resolve to promote growth and jobs while supporting sound and sustainable fiscal consolidation policies.
Greece's interim finance minister George Zanaias says he won't let political uncertainty hold back planned economic reform. The country has had no elected government since an inconclusive election 2 weeks ago. Repeat elections take place in the middle of next month. Now, the European Union and the International Monetary Fund demanded extensive cuts and reforms as part of a €130 billion bailout package agreed to in March. One of the most crucial reforms relates to collecting taxes and cracking down on tax evaders. Greece needs to take measures by the end of June for a program to improve tax collection by 1.5% of GDP in 2013-2014. But this risks being delayed due to the new election. The interim finance ministers urged Greeks to pay their taxes to save the country from bankruptcy. Now, shares of Facebook continued below their initial public offering price of $38 on the Nasdaq yesterday. There are now more questions being asked about the Facebook stock after a muddled debut last Friday.
Wall Street's attitude towards Facebook seems to have quickly turned from like to dislike. Shares of the social media network opened lower on its second day of trade, sinking as low as $33 or 13% a share by mid-session. Underwriters who helped prop up the stock on the first day of trade were absent this time around. There are also questions as to whether Friday's chaotic debut by the Nasdaq created the environment for the stock to fall further. But Joseph Foudy of the NYU Stern School of Business says he thinks the drop has more to do with investor sentiment about this specific stock.
The fact that it's gone down in price is purely a reflection of the initial offering price and the fact that it was so rich. I mean, the company is valued at something like 75 or 100 times earnings. And we really have no indication that it's going to be able to earn, the kind of revenue that would justify that valuation.
Trading continues to be frantic as investors try to figure out what's the right price for Facebook shares. More than 52 million shares traded hands in just 15 minutes. And that's on top of the massive trading volume seen in Friday's debut.
But it now appears the Nasdaq could have been to blame. It faces short-term costs from its botched handling of Facebook shares on their first day of trading. But the longer-term repercussions could be more expensive as it struggles to restore its image.
Nasdaq says it's changing its IPO procedures. It's hoping to save face after it bungled the historic Facebook initial public offering. In the frenzy and a 40-minute delay, the Nasdaq reportedly had trouble sending electronic messages back to brokerages which handle orders from individual investors. This meant investors had no idea if their orders had gone through. The result, mass confusion, but limited financial impact for the exchange.
In terms of financial impact, we think it's extremely limited. We think that regulations and SEC rules cap their liability at $3 million, and so we don't think they're likely to see a large financial loss.
The Securities and Exchange Commission is investigating, and the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority will review requests from investors whose orders were not filled properly. It's unclear how long this will take. Investor confidence in the largely computer-driven equity markets was already fragile.
I think over the last couple of years, there's been a number of high-profile market incidents that have dented their confidence. Things like the flash crash 2 years ago. Things like the August hyper-volatility that saw markets rising and falling 4 or 5% per day for a week straight. And now in 2012, a number of high-profile IPOs that had issues.
The fiasco could benefit rival NYSE Euronext. Companies looking to list shares may see new value in the big board's trading model, which combines computerized trading with the human touch.
More business news coming up after the break. Stay with us.
I would never have been able to afford the legal fees to take on this corporation if I wasn't with Clientele Legal. For 120 Rand a month, it is nothing to pay for what they have done for me.
You can afford a good lawyer. From just 120 Rand per month, you can have access to superior legal services of up to 120,000 Rand per year. SMS rights to 31765 and Clientele Legal will call you back. SMS now.
Take a trip down memory lane. The best of Springbok Radio hits is the latest offering in the Springbok Radio series. 40 original hits kicking off with John Lennon, UB40, Blondie, OMD, Queen and everything in between. The best of Springbok Radio hits, now available at your nearest music outlet.
In just 2 minutes, I turned Lauren into a pop star from the 1980s.
The Audi, then. Not a good hairstylist.
Why would you watch anything else? Top Gear starts Sunday, 27th of May at 5 on 3.
Welcome back. Australia's top airline, Qantas Airways, has announced that its international and domestic businesses are to be managed as separate entities. The split will take place on the 1st of July. Each division will have its own chief executive and earnings will be reported separately. Qantas says in a stock exchange filing that the changes are part of a 5-year turnaround plan. It's aimed at cutting costs and getting the loss-making international operation back into profit. Qantas also announced plans to cut another 500 jobs to save up to 100 million Australian dollars annually. That's 98.5 million US dollars. Weak demand and high fuel prices are taking their toll on airline profits, pushing airlines across the world to reduce costs and delay capital expenditure. Now, Asia looks set to boost investment ties with West Africa. The West African Development Bank kicked off a summit in Togo yesterday aimed at promoting West Africa as a safe investment destination for Asian investors. Blossoming trade and business ties between China and Africa have drawn criticism from those who argue Beijing is only interested in African resources. In 2010, China pledged $10 billion in preferential loans to Africa and said it will triple the China-Africa Development Fund to $3 billion. On the trade front, China will offer zero tariffs on 95% of its imports from the least developed countries in Africa in the coming 3 years. So with that, let's take a look at how the African markets have been performing. Your weather details and a roundup of the local market when we come back.
To see how people react when they try new Colgate Sensitive Pro Relief, I'd like you to take a sip of this ice-cold water. Ouch. I'd like you to rub this new toothpaste where you feel pain. Now drink the cold water again.
No way.
Trust me. How does that feel?
Unreal. I can't believe it. How does it work?
Well, the patented ProArgent formula instantly seals open channels to the nerves. With daily brushing, you get long-lasting relief.
New Colgate Sensitive Pro Relief for instant and lasting relief. Prove it to yourself. Now also available with whitening for brighter, whiter teeth. Colgate, #1 brand recommended by dentists.
Join us tonight on Top Billing as we find London Electric with Olympic and Diamond Jubilee fever. Get the exclusive on the makeover of the Queen's Crown Jewels. Meet medal contender LJ from Sale as he really milks it. Bake cupcakes in the pop art pan of master patissier Eric Landlard. And catch Tim Burton's take on his latest Johnny Depp flick, Dark Shadows. Stay with Top Billing tonight, 8 p.m. on SABC3.
Welcome back. Markets look to be extending their gains for the moment at least, but I doubt that it will last. US futures have turned negative. I'll tell you why in a moment. Let's just first take a look at where the JSE indicators are standing at the moment. All share index is higher by 0.8%, industrials by 0.6%, financials have gained 0.9%. Resources index is up by 1.3% now, and the same goes for the gold index. The platinum index, meanwhile, has gained 0.9%. The rand somewhat steady, 8.24 to the dollar, 13.03 to the pound, 10.52 against euro. And European markets also looking slightly stronger. FTSE has gained 1.2%. The CAC and the DAX are each up 0.9%. Now, I told you US futures have turned negative. The reason is that ratings agency Fitch has gone and downgraded Japan's credit sovereign rating, or sovereign credit rating, that's the right way around. And the reason they say is because another debt crisis is developing over there. We've got Japan spending quite a bit, and it's struggling to rein in that spending because there's a bit of political squabbles going on between rival factions, and it's leadership question that is really questionable, and people are wondering whether or not they will come to a point where they can make decisions to cut back on spending. So yes, we've got another debt crisis developing. Hopefully Fitch is wrong. That's it from me. The weather is next with Christina.
Thank you, Gunther. Very good afternoon to you. We're expecting clear and fine conditions throughout the country. A high-pressure system has set in, leaving anti-clockwise circulation movement there. Partly cloudy skies expected through the extreme northeastern parts of the country, and those clear skies extending all the way through to that western coastline with some northerly winds blowing past the Cape Peninsula. Your temperatures around the country, mild to cool. Johannesburg reaching up to 18 degrees, Polokwane at 20, slightly warm in Durban with 25 degrees this afternoon, Port Elizabeth 23, Cape Town 24, but Bergwood conditions leaving warm conditions in Vredendal reaching up to 31 degrees. And then again tomorrow, clear skies expected around the country with those stable conditions. But that's all from me. I hope you have a great afternoon. Ciao.
And that's our show for today. Thanks indeed for watching. Until tomorrow, bye-bye.